the school counselor. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Melissa Brown, and I am the school-based mental health counselor at Skyline High School. And I am employed by Swedish Medical Center, who works with the Issaquah School District to provide mental health services in all of their schools. So each school has one of us who work providing mental health services to students. We usually carry a caseload and work with students on like a short-term limited basis for providing mental health services, and then we will, so usually like about 6 to 8 weeks, and then if ongoing support is still needed, we can provide resources to refer out to the community and to get access outpatient mental health services as well if needed.
Okay, perfect, thank you. So you talked about working with students from Skyline. So what do you think are the biggest concerns or some risk factors that you see here at Skyline with the students here, of course?
Some of the main things that I've noticed that students struggle with is depression and anxiety are really big issues that they're dealing with, and a lot of it comes from like the performance that's expected at Skyline is pretty rigorous. There's a lot of academic pressure from parents and that students put on themselves, so that provides a lot of anxiety over performance and the time spent trying to balance like a social life and sports or at clubs and doing all their homework, like from all 7 classes worth of homework is a lot, and then trying to get any sleep or do anything else just gets very difficult, and that increases the risk of mental health struggles on high schoolers.
Now that we've identified some risk factors, what would you say are some protective factors to help combat these risk factors?
I think really the biggest one is a good support system. I think having, whether it's parents or other family members or friends, who you can turn to if things do get difficult, who can support you, you can talk to them without feeling judged. I think a lot of pressure is put on students by their parents. So if parents are maybe a little bit more understanding of what the students are facing and the academic challenges and the effects that it has on them, I would hope that parents would maybe be a little bit more empathetic and provide the room for maybe a little bit of relaxing or just a little bit more understanding of the overall well-being rather than just focusing on the academic outcome. I think that's really the main thing, because then the student would feel comfortable reaching out for extra support, like using your school counselors to come to if you're having struggles with school, needing to change your schedule, like an IEP or 504 plan, if that would help. Just that comfort in being able to reach out, but then also just taking care of yourself, like making sure you're getting a good amount of sleep. I think people really underestimate the impact that sleep has on your mental health. And I know it's easy to stay up late, like working on homework and trying to fit everything in, but I think prioritizing sleep is really important, as well as exercise and eating a balanced diet. Like all those usual things to take care of yourself are really the 2 best things that you can do.
We know that mental health can be a really strong issue or a controversial topic sometimes, especially at Skyline. Do you have any perspective on the stigmas around mental health?
I think there's a lot of stigmas that we still, while it's being talked about more often and like different like celebrities are coming forward being open about it, I think that's great, but there's still a lot of stigma around it. One of the ones that I've come across a lot from high schoolers is like different cultural perspectives. A lot of cultures have different perspectives on mental health and each condition individually and how they feel like is the appropriate way to address it. A lot of what I've heard from a lot of students is that they don't want to talk to their parents because they wouldn't understand, or they'd tell me I'm just being dramatic. somebody told me that like they don't want to talk to their parents because it would be inconvenient, and they think that they're making a big deal out of nothing and they just need to suck it up and deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's really hard and makes it really hard for students to reach out. There's a lot of minimizing of like, oh, you're not depressed, you're just lazy, or everybody has a lot going on, you just need to figure out how to deal with it. So I think trying to just be open about it and like accepting that people have different things going on, and just kind of normalizing that mental health is a thing that deserves just as much attention as physical health. It's okay to take a mental health day from school. You don't have to be physically sick if you're just not doing well mentally. It's okay to take time for yourself also. So I think things like that we still need to get better at recognizing that it deserves to be treated the same way. And I think in healthcare settings, that is still a work in progress. So we've made a lot of progress and steps forward, but I think it's just still, we need to talk about it, and it's okay for people to know you're going to a therapist, or it's okay to let people know that you're having a hard time. So yeah.
That like there's a lot of cultural stigma. How would you say that someone could get through to their parent who is being unreceptive to the idea that their child is having some mental health issues?
I think that's really hard and a very good question. I think education is a big part of it. It is hard to balance. Like, you obviously want to be respectful of somebody's culture and not telling them their way of looking at it is wrong and their beliefs are wrong, but just a little bit of education about how both can maybe be right, or even if this is the way you look at it, your child is still struggling, so how can we help? So like, I know the school counselors reach out to parents fairly often. I've offered, a lot of students are reluctant to have me talk to their parents, but I've offered sometimes to call with them, and we can have, like, they don't always know how to bring it up, but I'm happy to have that conversation together with the student and their parent. And then, because then I can answer any questions, also kind of break the tension, a little bit with the parent. But yeah, I think just, and hopefully, like, parents want the best for their child, whatever that might look like. Ultimately, we all all of our goals is to do what's best for the student. So I think working at it from that perspective, and saying like, your child's grades are really struggling, they've come to me crying sometimes, maybe they're having suicidal ideations, and so just kind of coming at it from like, we want to help, whatever the reasoning is for this, we want to help them, and these are some things that may be helpful. And then I think it's just like, it's not that quick of a process. I think it takes some time for them to adjust to the idea, to be open to somebody else maybe being involved in their family business, and then maybe just seeing kind of over time how their child is doing, and hopefully coming around maybe, but I think it doesn't always happen, and sometimes the student does suffer for that, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, other than parents, there are a lot of barriers to getting mental health help and resources. So what would you say are some of the most large barriers in a high school student, especially here at Skyline, getting those support that they need?
Yeah, I think kind of back to the question before, unsupportive parents are a pretty big barrier. In Washington State, if you're over the age of 13, you can consent to your own mental health treatment and care, which is great in theory, but in practice, not as easy, because you still need your parents' insurance. They're gonna see that you're using it. They're gonna see whatever copay, or you're gonna have to find the money to pay for it on your own. Transportation, we're kind of out here in Sammamish a little bit isolated from like the city services, so transportation is a real barrier. and just if your parents aren't, some people would benefit from medication, but they don't even want to go to their primary care provider because it would involve their parents would have a lot of questions. So it can just be really hard to get those services if your parents aren't on board and you're really dependent for their insurance, ultimately, is what it comes down to. But I think also there is a shortage of mental health providers right now. There's long wait lists to get in to see somebody or to see a psychiatrist. So that's another thing that people find very discouraging and frustrating, understandably. Also, sometimes I've tried to help people with referrals and I've called different clinics and never got a call back. So sometimes you give somebody the information and still even then it's hard to actually connect with somewhere that will be helpful.
Thank you so much for your time today. One last question that we have is, if someone did want to reach out for your help, how would they do that?
You can come down to I'm based in the counseling office at Skyline, so you can come down to the counseling office and just leave a note that you want to make an appointment with me, or you can reach out to your school counselor who can pass their information on to you or on to me, and then I can reach out and schedule an appointment with you. There are also a few other, just if you're in a crisis, like the suicide hotline number is 988. You can call them anytime. You can also call 911 if it's an emergency, or reach out to your school counselor who's available for drop-ins for an emergency.
Thank you so much for your time.